say that the NYPD is New York's finest. By the way, I love the NYPD. God bless them. But the New York's finest is sitting in this room right now, ladies and gentlemen. What an honor, what a privilege to be speaking to the chosen people. Wow. I had a moment where I prayed in the corner and I asked the creator of the universe for the right words. And I thanked him for the awesome responsibility to be speaking to the chosen people. We have to normalize the chosen people. I want to thank Rabbi Yoshua Keikov for bringing me out here. A round of applause. I don't know who all the other people, the sponsors, the organizers, thank you, but Yoshua is the main person I was in contact with. I assume that every person in this room already knows my story. I assume you watched my movie. If you didn't, can I just get a round of, not a round of applause, a show of hands how many people saw my movie in this room, just so I know? Okay, good, very nice. Thank you. For those of you who didn't, on one foot, I'll give you a 30-second synopsis. I grew up in the nightclub business. I wasn't religious. I had other various businesses that I do not want to speak about on camera right now. At 21 years old, I became religious. I flipped the whole thing on its head. With Hashem's help, I used the same energy, the same power, the same talents, and I brought them into Kodesh. I brought them into the world of Torah. And today, thank God, I have 4 absolutely beautiful children, a beautiful wife. And I really do mean it that I feel small. I feel small in the presence of the Jewish people. It's a real thing. So that's the synopsis in 30 seconds. So there was a small occurrence that happened about 2.5 years ago. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but it was like this thing called COVID-19. Anybody hear about it? Or as they call it, or as I like to call it, the plandemic, but we won't go there right now. That's another class for another time. Before COVID-19, I was on top of the world. I had a thriving business. At least in the religious world, I'm like an A-class celebrity. In the non-Jewish world, I'm like a D-. I was on flights, I was on planes, I was crushing it, as they say. And this thing called COVID-19 came around. And my business got completely shut down, destroyed, dead in the water. I had $250,000 contracts, $250,000 worth of contracts that were canceled in the blink of an eye. And my koch, my specialty, is business. I happen to love it. Some people like sports. Some people like, who knows what people like these days. I don't want to go into the other things. Some people like sports. Some people like fun stuff. My enjoyment is business. It is directly related and tied to who I am as a person. Whether that's right or that's wrong, you speak to your local Orthodox rabbi about it. I spoke to mine. It's kosher. And when COVID hit, it wasn't just my business that got hit. Berel Solomon himself got destroyed along with my business. My whole being. I remember one night I was sitting in my laundry room. I don't know if any of you saw that video. I was sitting in my laundry room, which was my office at that time. I turned up the music on my computer, only Jewish music. And I started to cry. I didn't want anybody to hear the sobbing in the basement. I was a man that was broken. You know, and it really bothered me because during COVID, everybody seemed like everything was okay. Everyone was like, yes, save lives, stay home, we're in this together. I'm like, I'm dying. Please, somebody help me. And it really bothered me. It really affected me to my core. during COVID. There was one business. Today it became the business of schmaxines. We're not going to go there. Don't want to get too political on you guys. The business at the time was a business called the mask business. There was like a panic in the world. Where are we going to get masks? Everybody all of a sudden needed a mask. You saw videos in Brooklyn of people being hauled off in handcuffs for selling masks. And in Canada in general, we are much later on trends. So I saw my friends that were in the nursing home business. They were selling masks and they were killing it. And I wanted to get into that business because I was sitting on my hands, I was depressed, I needed to move. I needed to do something. And if there was opportunity, if there was a mask to be sold in Mexico, I wanted in. So I started to try to sell. And I would call my friends, and I would call big companies, and I would call the healthcare industry, and I would call hospitals, and I would say, I would like to offer you masks. They would say, great, we really need masks. And when can you get them here? I said, well, wire me $500,000. I'm going to order it from China. And you'll have it maybe in 2 weeks or so. And everyone, if you remember, there was a time during COVID where credit ran out. There was no credit. Everybody thought the world was falling apart. There was no such thing as wire me. Nobody had any trust at that moment. And trust is the operative word that we're going to be playing on tonight. So keep that word in your mind, because that's going to be a big theme of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Trust. So I posted on my LinkedIn that I have 1 million masks in Brooklyn. I wanted to see if people really needed them. I was clobbered. I got 400 or 500 private messages from every Tom, Dick, and Harry trying to buy my masks for whatever price. The problem was, I didn't have any masks. And I sat on the phone, tried to broker. I would stay up till 3 o'clock at night. I remember my phone would die. I would be plugged into the wall and being on my phone like this. And my wife was saying, "Come to bed already." Do you guys remember during COVID, there was a time where time didn't have any value anymore. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I was speaking to people like it was 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Time fell apart. And I remember that night, I went to bed a defeated man. And I pulled myself up the stairs. And I lied down in bed. My wife didn't have to ask what was going on. She knew. And I opened my arms like this, and I lied down on my bed. And everything had left me. My business had left me, my connections had left me, my everything had left me, everything. At that time, because I had so much, I was paying all my employees, but all of our customers stopped payment. So I had hundreds of thousands of dollars out on the street and nothing coming in. I had $30,000 in my bank at that point. And if anybody is Jewish in this room, you will know that $30,000 for a family of 6, we just had one, so I had to recalculate. Thank you. Our family of 6, that is about 3 months worth of living. I had 90 days worth of oxygen. That is a scary place for a man to be. Any men in this room can associate with that? Yeah? Yeah, it's scary. It was scary. Was anybody else scared? Was I the only one that was scared during COVID? Yeah, there's one guy. Good, thank you. And I went to bed that night. My in-laws, thank you Hashem, and they should continue to be, are very wealthy. And I remember calling my brother-in-law, and I always in the back of my mind thought, if everything goes to Gehenna, I have my in-laws. there's the joke of the boy who wants to get married. And he gets married, and his father-in-law keeps keeps on asking, what are you going to do? And the father says, and he says to his father-in-law, Hashem is providing, don't worry. Hashem, every time he asks him, Hashem is providing, stop asking me the question, Shver, my father-in-law. One day the father-in-law is golfing, and his friends ask him, what does your son-in-law do for a living? He says, he gets everything from Hashem. The problem is, he thinks I'm Hashem. I called my brother-in-law on my phone. I was in my closet. I was sitting. I didn't want my wife to hear. I said, so, how's business? He said we have $50 million worth of unsold houses. That's what they do. We have $50 million of unsold houses that every single contract was reneged on. My last hope was gone. I lie down on my bed. I spread my arms like this. And in my mind, I pictured Hashem. Please don't judge me. I pictured Hashem like a gigantic horse. I'm allowed to picture Hashem however I want, okay? You can picture Hashem how you want. I picture Hashem how I want. Thank you. He was a gigantic horse, and the saddle was the size of a desert. I mean, really big. I mean, if Hashem is a horse, he's like a really big horse. And I remember I put my arms out like this, and I closed my eyes, and in my mind, I said, I have nothing left. It's only you and me, baby. And I just sat there and I meditated on trusting the one above. I'm talking about like an hour. The anxiety was so intense, it was so strong, it was so painful, it was so hurtful, it was so fearful. And I just laid there, and in my mind, there was nothing in this world that could stop that horse. I'm just a little tiny speck on that saddle. And if I just stayed there, that was my little safe spot that I carved out for myself while the world was falling apart behind me. The next morning, I get a phone call from one of the wealthiest Jewish families in Montreal. Family friend, his name is Daniel. And Daniel says to me, hey, I heard that you sold 1 million masks in Brooklyn. I said, it's just marketing. He said, well, listen, I have a connection for you. I have access to masks in China because our factories switched over to producing masks. I have the financing. You have the platform. Let's go 50-50 partners. I'm working Rosh Hashanah if you're interested. I applied that. Let me just tell you what happened with the masks. No, I'm going to tell you first. I've applied this concept of trusting in God in so many areas, and so many times, in so many places in my life, that for me, trusting in Hashem is the same law of nature as if I take this book and I drop it on the table 1,000 out of 1,000 times, I will get the same result. It is built into the fabric of the universe that when a person trusts in Hashem, they will see miracles. I just want to share with you where this comes from. It's a word called bitachon. Or if you're a little awkward, you say bitachon. And the concept goes like this. When a person, there's a great book, Chovos Levavos, Shar HaBitachon. Anybody ever heard of it before? Really life-changing. It goes like this. The concept of trusting in God goes like this. When a person trusts in God, what you're saying to him is, I don't believe in the nature to save me. I believe in the power of the one above to transform my life despite whatever is going on and what is possible in nature. And when God sees that we trust him above nature, God says, wow, nature, olam, the word in Hebrew olam means hidden, Helen. You do not trust in nature or the order of things, and you are instead putting your trust in me, which is above nature. I will reward you above nature. That means even if you don't deserve it, even if you don't earn it, even if you don't anything, the bitachon, the trust in itself is the magic button that we press and we bring down God's blessing into our lives. And I've applied this in every area. I applied it when I went to yeshiva the first time. I cannot tell you how difficult my experience was going to yeshiva. I fought. I clawed my way into yeshiva. Everybody from my friends, my community, everybody that was close to me disowned me when I went to yeshiva. I whitewashed it a little in my film because personal reasons. But I whitewashed it. It was the most miserable, difficult experience of my life. And I remember saying to God, I don't think you ever punished a Jew ever in his life or her life for going to yeshiva or to seminary. I don't think it ever happened. You could clap for it. I applied it when I was getting married. I went to go marry a girl from Panama. You have to understand, in Montreal, marrying a girl from Toronto is far. I hopped on a plane to go meet a woman I never spoke to in my life. And Robbie, how you doing? And I went to go meet her. I never spoken to her in my life. And I ended up getting married to that woman 90 days later. I trusted the one above. I give tzedakah. I am an animal when it comes to giving tzedakah. I'm coming out with a new movie. You're going to see it next year. Right before right in Elul time, is about giving tzedakah. This year, with Hashem's help, I pledged $250,000, and I'm more than halfway through the pledge. Because I trust in the miracle. Can I get an amen now? I look like Sparty, but now that you see me talk, you're like, this guy's definitely not Sparty. I did it when I left my family business. I trusted the one above. I remember leaving my family's office one day, and I'm on the bridge. The day that I left, I was on the bridge, and I'm speaking with my wife, and she says, how are you going to do it? With tears in my eyes, I said, I don't know how, I don't know where, I don't know when, but Hashem is going to take care of us. So let's go back to the mask business. I got off the horse, right, the next day. I get the call. And the game in the mask business was like this. There was airplanes that were flying masks into North America. And there was simultaneously boats that were leaving China. And the game was to fly as many airplanes as you could before the boat hit. We started off with 10,000 masks. My partner said, how many do you want to bring in? I said, 10,000. You know, it says in Judaism, another person's money has to be as dear to you as your own money. So I said, I'm not willing to, my own money I'll lose, your money I won't. Let's start with 10,000. The 10,000 came, before it hit the ground, it was gone. I said, oh, wow, that was cool. Let's go to 50. We ordered 50. Before it left China, it was gone. I said, whoa, let's try 100,000. Gone. 1 million. Gone. And we flew millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of masks into North America. And who was delivering them? Your boy, Big B. I stripped my money's beautiful. You can do great things with money. So this thing, I really believe, besides the tzedakah that I gave also at the time, I believe that it was the trust that helped me calm myself down. God saw me, you trust me. I'm literally self-destructing the world, and this lonely Jew is riding my back in the desert, and he's trusting me, and I believe that that's one of the reasons, besides the charity that I gave at that time. Out of my $30,000 in my bank, I gave $4,000, one to each one of the rabbis in my shul, so that they should have food on their plates for Pesach. Between the charity and the trust, that's why God gave me the blessing. And really, I rock climb every morning. That's what I do for exercise. I'm an eclectic guy, what can I say? I go rock climbing every single morning. And in rock climbing, there's so many life lessons to be learned from that beautiful sport. But I'll tell you my biggest takeaway from that sport. There's a rope that connects you to the top. And as you're climbing, you could climb with confidence because you know if you mess up, ultimately you cannot fall. And there are times when I'm rock climbing, I happen to be petrified of heights. There's times when I'm climbing where your belay makes a sound, the metal belt, and I freeze up because I think that it unclipped. And in that moment, I can't climb, I can't move, I'm paralyzed, I completely lost my confidence, and I'm petrified. Until I touch the belt again, and I realize it's connected, and then I climb up that mountain like a champion. And if we understand in our lives that really ultimately we are wearing a harness, we are wearing the belt, and we are connected on high, and we cannot fall, we can march forward with strength and with confidence in the face of any adversity. I don't like to talk about anti-Semitism so much, although it would be good for my views online. I just it's not even worth it. I probably will, so somebody will call me out and say, oh, he said he didn't, but he did. I just don't care about it. I'm so focused on the goal. God is so much bigger. He's so much. The Jewish people are the chosen people. We are part of the greatest story ever told. So a Schmalestinian wants to say that he threw a rock and we shot him, and the whole world freaks out. I don't get so. He shouldn't have thrown the rock in the first place. What kind of world do we live in? I don't get so caught up with it. It's lo echapatu. We're so much bigger than this. So there was a time, unfortunately, where the mask business fell apart. I knew that was the case because my Uber driver had offered to sell me masks. And at that point, it was time to get out. And I call my partner and I say, look, he says to me, before I could get anything out, he said, Berel, we gotta ramp up. We gotta get this thing rocking and rolling. We're going too small. I don't want to bring 1 million at a time. I want to start bringing 5 million masks at a time. And I said to him, not only do I not want to do that, but if I could cancel the 1 million in the air, I would, because I had intelligence that there was a boat that was about to hit the shores. And 3 days later, masks went from 60 or 70 cents a mask to 3 or 5 cents a mask. And he was so upset about me. I was fire selling masks at cost. He was so upset about me. Today he says I'm the biggest genius in the world. By the way, it's a miracle in itself. A lot of people lost their shirts with masks. It hurt a lot of business. A lot of people got hurt with that business. But Hashem helped me time it properly. So as the mask business started to fall down and go, guess who went with it? I went with it because my being is connected to business. And if anybody has a problem with that, so is, just look at Issachar and Zvulun. There are Jewish people that their focus in this world is to be in business. And that's what God put me in this world to do. And it killed me. And our business, my video business, I have another business in video production. that started to fall. That didn't start. It was dead. It was dead in the water. And I had like a period where I was, as we say in Yiddish, nish dehen, nish deher. I wasn't here, I wasn't there. I was doing nothing. And for me to do nothing is the worst thing that could happen. And I started to become very depressed. Very depressed. And I was losing myself. I went with my wife to Panama for like 2 or 3 months because Montreal, I don't know if you heard about this, but it became a Soviet country. It's owned by a dictator called Vladimir Trudeau. Yeah, we went there. And I had to escape. So I escaped to Panama. And I was so low, I couldn't lift myself out of this low place I was in. I mean, it was rough. I lost my, even, what are those fried things that you guys eat? What do they do with the meat? Even kibbeh didn't interest me. Kibbeh. We don't do that in Ashkenaz. I wish we did. I really liked it. And I couldn't lift myself out. And my wife was tired of hearing about it. So I decided to reach out to an executive coach. And on my first conversation with him, in tears, I said to him, "You are looking right now at a bird that has broken wings. But I've been here before. And I will tell you that I know myself. I won't stay here for long. And when I get out of this place, you will witness me like a bird, like a phoenix rising from the ashes to take over the world." He helped me understand. He helped me see my greatness. He helped me understand who I was. I just want to. There's two mitzvahs that people don't really talk about. I really wanted to find a source in Torah for a coach. Everything in my life that I do, I try to do according to Torah. And I was scouring. I couldn't find anything. And it really bothered me. And then I realized it smacked me in the face. It was in front of me this whole time. There's a mitzvah in Pirkei Avos, Aseh lecha rov, and kinei lecha chaver. Make yourself a rabbi and acquire a coach. And the Bar Tanua has an interesting, he goes so in depth about this, so beautiful. The Bar Tanua says, why is it Aseh lecha rov? Because you're not allowed to pay a rov. Why? Because when you pay a rov, you're bribing him or her. Birthing persons. Today you have to be careful of him or crazy world we live in. You're not allowed to pay a rov because you're bribing